Hello and welcome to our May Evergreen Health Forum. My name is Mark Uman and I am the Executive Director at NAMI Eastside. I'd first like to thank our sponsors for our monthly forums, Evergreen Health. Thank you to Evergreen Health for promoting mental health and well-being in East King County and for being a tremendous partner for NAMI Eastside. I'd next like to remind everyone that we have our NAMI Walks event coming up this Saturday on June 1st at Marina Park in Kirkland. We'd love to have you all join us and join our team and help NAMI Eastside rock the walk. It's going to be mostly nice day. I think I didn't see any rain in the forecast, so I hope you all have your walking or running shoes and join us for the 5K walk this weekend to help raise awareness about mental health, as well as to help support NAMI in East King County as well as throughout the state. So we'd love to have you join us. I'm going to pop the link to our team in the chat, so feel free to click on that. If you're not able to join us on Saturday, we'd love to have your contribution to help us rock the walk. So thanks for your consideration. We hope to see you there on Saturday. So May is Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month and also Mental Health Awareness Month. So it's a really exciting month for me as a South Asian American and also somebody working at NAMI Eastside. A really busy month as well. So we here recognize and celebrate the important contributions of Asian Americans, Pacific Islanders, and Native Hawaiians to our communities throughout King County. While we celebrate, we also recognize the barriers facing folks in the AAPI community. Studies showed that AAPI adults with mental health conditions use mental health services the least among all racial and ethnic groups. So there's a lot of work to do. And our friends at ACRS, who are here with us tonight, do incredible work. So it is my pleasure to introduce Lydia and her team from Asian Counseling and Referral Service for being our mental health, Evergreen Health Forum presenters tonight. So thanks for being here.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you everyone who's joining us. Maybe, thank you to everyone who's, watching the recorded version of this as well. Thank you for having your videos on too, because it really helps us kind of know like, okay, you're there. There are people on the other side of this. So like Mark mentioned, I feel like we're, it's a really exciting month, the intersection between AAPI communities and, with mental health. We will, talk more about our organization, but I wanted to invite the team to introduce themselves, to, kind of include everyone's voice, from the beginning. And I can start. My name is Lydia Chun. I use she, her pronouns. I am the assistant program supervisor in the Children's Mental Health Department and at ACRS. There's a lot of acronyms, in the mental health field and even like AAPI. So hopefully we do not throw out any that, throw you off. And we have a little check-in question for you all to get to know us a little bit. And the question is, what do you like about working with the AAPI community? And I was thinking about this, and the answer that I kind of, I think the leading motivator for me is that knowing that AAPI is such a broad group of people. And I feel like I really do learn something new every day, even if I really can't make assumptions about anyone. There are so many different life experiences, and I think it's a real privilege to get to know that through my work. And I'll pass it on to anyone on the team who's ready to go.
I'll go right now. Thank you, Lydia, for making this happen and having us all here. My name is Brian. I go by either pronouns. And I believe our check-in question is, what do you like about working with the AAPI community? And for me, I love working with the AAPI community because as an immigrant myself, I grew up here in King County for many of my formative years, and after graduating from graduate school, recognized the needs of the API community, or broadly speaking, API demographic, in terms of access to resources, access to mental health support, and everything in between. And so for me to work with folks who might share similar lived experiences with me is definitely one of the biggest reasons why I am here. So that's me. And I'll pass it on to anyone else.
Thanks, Brian. I can go next. Hello, everyone. My name is Grace Chan. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a clinical program supervisor here with the Children's Mental Health Program at Asian Counseling and Referral Service. And something I appreciate in working with the AAPI community is being able to use a side of myself that may not always be fully seen or heard in a more Western kind of agency setting here at ACRS. I really appreciate being able to give others the opportunity in our community to feel seen and heard as well. And it's a really healing journey, I think, for myself and wanting to be part of the change that I wish to see. So yeah, I'll pass it on to whoever is ready next, Dee or Storm.
Thank you, Grace. I can go next. Hi, I'm Storm. I use they, he pronouns. I am a youth development specialist, slash case manager under the youth development department of the Children, Youth, and Families at ACRS. And for me, one thing that I really enjoy and appreciate just working with AAPI populations is just coming from my own cultural background, understanding things through a cultural lens. I just feel like there's certain things that oftentimes like people in a Western background or in a Western environment might not fully understand, or there's just certain cultural context that might be missing. And I think that's one of the biggest and most valuable things is just being able to understand the people that you work with, and also the people that come to you. And I think that's one of the most rewarding things. Everyone wants to be seen and everyone wants to be heard. And I think that for me is something that I really take to my heart and continue taking with me while I'm in this role. Yeah. So thank you so much for being here, and thank you to NAMI Eastside for having us.
Thank you, team. Hi, everyone. My name is Dee. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the lead youth development specialist with the Pathways to a Future program under the youth development department. So I think what I really like about working with the community is I'm constantly empowered by the community, and I feel so valuable and committed to just contributing back to the community, and I can find that connection and belonging, and also just like be connected with community members and be able to just really value what everybody values, and also be able to just build the community together. That's what I really enjoy working with the AAPI community, especially I was not born and raised here, like coming to a different country, but still being able to find my community I can support and get support from. I feel that's really just precious to me. Yeah, thank you.
All right. Thank you everyone for introducing yourselves. And there will definitely be, a question section at the end where we'll get to hear some other voices as well. Mark, we'll be moving to the next slide. We have a little bit of an opening activity. We want to hear from you too. And so maybe it's like a little game of sorts where, we'll put up a statement and then, maybe in the chat, if you are able, you can type in like either M or F, or you can type out myths or facts. So, I'll be reading the first one. Mark, next slide, please. Okay, so the first one is AAPI individuals need less mental health services than other people. So please put in the chat either myth or fact. Okay, y'all are fast. We're getting a lot of myths. So Mark, if we can go to the next slide, it kind of has the answer. Yes, it is a myth. I mean, it seems like, most of you already know that of course this isn't true. Maybe it is an assumption. It kind of shows how underrepresentation, doesn't just show up like in the media, portrayals, but there are some really staggering statistics. Even if Asian Pacific Islanders, I'm not sure if you can all read the information in the graphic there, but 6.1 of the US population identifies as Asian American or Pacific Islander. Right, maybe that's higher or lower than what you had imagined. This is from the 2023 census. And the arrow points to 15% of that 6.1% reports having a mental health illness in the past year. And so I was surprised by that. It's not just at one point in your life, but in the past year is quite relevant. And let's see, that leads to over 2.9 million people. Even though it only seems like 6.1, 15%, that does impact quite a lot of people, and that there's a blurb that says that's more than the number of dentists, post-secondary teachers, and lawyers in the United States. So that gives you, an estimate of, what 2.9 million people could possibly look like. And we'll move on to the next one.
All right, for the next one, the statement is, children are just as impacted by stress as adults are. So put in your response, do you think it's a myth or a fact? Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, y'all, for typing your responses in. Yes, it is indeed true, and it is a fact. Children are just as susceptible to factors like stress and any kind of mental illnesses and symptoms as adults are. So that's definitely a point that we will make further in our presentation, but I will leave it at that for now.
All right, next slide, please.
Right. Parents always know when their child is experiencing a mental health challenge. Oh, I see a lot of myths. Yeah, I think we can review the answer, which is myths. And just want to add a few tips. Again, like parents are same as their children, that they don't know everything. They don't always know everything in the beginning. They're also like in a learning process. So a couple of tips like get informed of like resources and information. Also get connected or stay connected with a community you trust, or always being able to share your true feelings and thoughts with the loved ones, and also always seek for professional support and being engaged in professional treatment. And plus, please avoid being guilty about like you don't know about like your child is experiencing a mental health issue or challenge, because like there are a lot of symptoms or signs are very hidden. And again, like we're all like human beings, right? We all have vulnerability, so it is okay to accept that vulnerability honestly. So yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you y'all for participation. So our next statement is, if a child has a mental health challenge, it means a parent has failed. Please put in the chat if you think it's a myth or a fact. Myth or fact. Okay, well, thank you everyone. All right. Next slide, please. So it is in fact a myth. We all do the best we can with what we know at a given time. And if you are here with us today, joining us in this discussion, we are already taking part in dispelling some of the myths, the myth around that and breaking down the stigma around mental health. A child has mental health challenges or struggles, it doesn't necessarily mean that parent has failed, parents and caregivers respond to a child's mental health challenge can be a significant opportunity to have difficult conversations and in turn build a strong relationship, but it is not necessarily the fault of a parent if a child has a mental health challenge. But a strong support system is definitely key and significant and helping that child in their own journey. We go through different things and for various situations and for various different reasons, and doesn't necessarily mean that a parent has failed. Thank you everyone for participating in that.
Alrighty, everyone, last one. There's nothing you can do for someone who experiences mental health challenges. Myth or fact? I love how fast some of you all are at this. Yeah, correct. It's a myth. If you want to go to the next slide. Some tips that I think we can talk about when we do identify someone we know or maybe ourselves as experiencing mental health challenges. Some things we can do is reach out to them, let them know that you care and that you'll be able to help. You can help lead them to professional healthcare workers and being able to address their concerns. You could also join them in learning about self-care and coping techniques that are healthy. Continuing to educate yourself and sharing the facts about mental health also continues to support breaking down the stigma for mental health. Two last things we can do for someone who experiences mental health challenges is to continue to treat them with respect, just like you would with anyone else, and refuse to define them by their diagnosis or using labels, rather using first-person language instead. Thank you all for enjoying or for participating. Hopefully you enjoyed this quick interactive game. Brian?
Yes, thank you so much. And thank you everybody on our team. And moving on, I know we haven't really introduced our organization yet, so why don't we do that first? Because ACRS is quite comprehensive agency. But to begin, ACRS stands for Asian Counseling and Referral Service, in case you didn't get that earlier. And we are a nonprofit organization that focuses on bettering the lives of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. Here in King County, Washington State, we offer many languages in our services, which range from, as you can see on the screen, aging services for older adults, citizenship and immigration assistance, employment and training services, and recovery services. This, for a side note, this is only a fraction of what we do offer at ACRS. Part of our services is also represented by the panelists who are here with me today, and we belong to the Department of Children, Youth, and Family, which I believe Storm has talked about before. And for us in CYF, we focus largely on youth development and also their mental health. So there are two branches of us. Thank you, Mark. There are two branches under the umbrella term CYF. So on one side, we have Youth Development Program, which is where Storm and I come in because we do prevention services. We have early intervention for students, particularly middle school youth and youth who are BIPOC identifying, which is background in Indigenous people of color. And we serve all these youth in the city of Seattle area for our program, which is Color, Year of Opportunities to Lead, Organize, or Reflect. We specifically focus on the youth that are at Akikurosi Middle School. And on the other side of the CYF umbrella, we have Adult Behavioral Health Program, or actually, that might not be the actual branch. We also have Children Mental Health Services, which is the other branch of CYF, and they provide mental health services for youth under the age of 18 And just like on the screen, with adult behavioral health program, we all provide mental health services to evaluate and assess their needs and whether they need to participate in any medication, and also other health services. We also provide case management to these individuals should there be a need for that. And we also have, this is a quick side note, we have different locations besides the one that is in South Seattle. We have an ACRS in Bellevue. So if you are located on the east side, we are also situated in your part of King County. So we're definitely very all over the world in terms of King County. And yeah, that's generally the gist of it. And then
Yes, we're ready for the next slide. All right, so yeah, if this is a little confusing, you're not the only one. Our program is, constantly evolving, and, throughout time, ACRS started as a small grassroots organization, and then based on the need, it would branch out into different departments. So, we've had the Children, Youth, and Family department for a while, and even there we noticed kind of a need for some differentiation. And so we have youth development, commonly, set as YD on our end, and then children's mental health being CMH. And so, they do have a lot of similarities. We serve youth. Both are offered, in like hybrid structures as of now. And, one youth could be receiving services from both YD and CMH. But kind of the difference is that YD is focused on prevention work, as it states. We're talking about providing social, like interactive, age-appropriate, like learning opportunities for youth that could, provide like a really solid base for, building the supports that you need. And that doesn't mean you won't experience a mental health challenge, but maybe you build some, cushions and strategies to kind of be there when a tough time does come up. And, when the tough time does come up, is kind of where CMH would step in, where this is more, instead of the prevention, more of the intervention part, where, some, challenge or problem is identified, and then we receive a referral from either hospital system, court system, schools, caregivers, parents, and our reach is, serving clients in King County. So like Brian mentioned, there's a Seattle office in South Seattle on MLK and Rainier, kind of, if you all know, if you, taking the light rail, you kind of see it from the light rail. And there's also an office in Bellevue and also, in Kent. So there are some options to be seen by a counselor there as well. So, the best way to kind of, keep updated is to definitely reach out to us to see where our services are and, what, services in YD or CMH could be helpful for a given youth. And we are ready to introduce some of our programs. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Lydia, for the intro of YD and CMH. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce my program, which is under the Youth Development or Youth Prevention umbrella. So it is Pathways to Our Future and founded by City of Seattle. So we basically serve 14 to 21-year-old Southeast Asian, Chinese immigrant, refugee high school students in the Seattle public schools, and focusing on teaching them career and job readiness and civic engagement advocacy skills. We try our best to provide the resources and opportunities for them to explore their career interests and be able to talk with the professionals who are currently working here, ask them to share their pathways, and we also put youth into like internships so they get to like apply and utilize skills and knowledge learned from us. And plus, we do have individual case management. I just want to quickly shout out there that even though it's a non-clinical program, but we do actually do a same assessment for students like mental health situation. We make those like referrals and being able to connect our students with the professional counselors to address their specific challenges. And you can see this is just a very tiny snapshot of our curriculum system, and we do teach more than this, but you see these are a lot of like important topics, and we call it hard and soft skills they'll need for their future career development, and even with like building their own community. And one thing really important is like we want them to understand the world and understand their community. So we bring a lot of like social issues or historical issues, so we can create that safe, inclusive space for students to explore and talk about it and be able to explore their identities, be able to connect with each other. And you see there are some photos here, and we're doing both like in person and virtual groups now. Yeah, that's pretty much about the program. Thank you.
Thank you, Dee, for that. All right. I will now be introducing Color, which is me and Brian's program, and also we have our other team member in the audience today. Our program is called Color, or longer version, it's Queer Opportunities to Lead, Organize, and Reflect. And one of the main, these are just some of the main points of Color. Our main thing is providing safe spaces to QT, BIPOC youth, queer, trans, Black, Indigenous, POC. And we focused on prevention and intervention through an intersectional perspective. And essentially what that means is we focus on racial and gender identity as a intersectional lens when discussing safe spaces and discussing identities and whatnot with our youth. As Brian mentioned, we are currently at AAPI Middle School located within South Seattle. Our program is structured very interesting. We are very integrated into the school community. We are at AAPI 2 days a week, Tuesday and Wednesday, in which Tuesdays we will generally hold a group after school where we facilitate healthy relationships and substance abuse awareness education. And through that group, we also empower youth autonomy to make their own decisions in a conscious and healthy manner. On Wednesdays, we host a lunch group where it's more of just a safe space for students to chat, for students to learn more about queerness, learn more about their own gender identity, and also just have a space to be in community with other allies and other queer kids within the school. Outside of that, we also offer individual case management and one-on-one check-ins to every student in the program. And this is also a space where youth can identify if they need further mental health support, which we can connect them to, or any struggles that they have going on in terms of academics or school, or any SEL, social emotional learning needs that they have, or if there's just a trusted adult that they want to talk to. So that's Color, and that's what we do. We have one other program within youth development. Unfortunately, none of the members of this program is here today, so I'll have
I can
Brian.
take over this slide to introduce them. Before I move on though, I do want to add even more to what Storm has already said, but in terms of intersectional perspective, we do recognize that youth who share different racial and gender and sexual identities, and we recognize that these identities can form an intersection that needs specific and unique approaches to them. And that's what we mean when we say we approach them through an intersectional perspective, because these are the unique, specialized and unique, not just your cookie cutter, like tuna kind of approach to socio-emotional learning or any kind of academic learning. So Color does specialize in providing that. And moving on to Get Real, which is a program I'm personally very excited to introduce to y'all. It's not a program that I work for, but it is a program that my lovely coworkers, Jacqueline and Corey, host. And the Real in Get Real stands for Relationship Education and Life Skills. So they go to different middle and high schools and facilitate groups with youth who want to learn more about how to build healthy relationships and other life skills. And they also practice a lot of leadership skills to connect with other peers and their high school mentors. They are very good at incorporating a lot of fun games and activities to their programming, which I personally appreciate. I have job shadowed them in the past, and Jackie and Corey are definitely seasoned, experienced professionals at making their groups very fun, but also educational. And any students who are at the middle school can enroll in their after-school program. And it's nice because they sometimes, actually most times, offer a stipend for any youth who can complete the entirety of their program. And what's more is that during the summer, they have a free 5-week summer program available where students can learn not just everything that I've already mentioned, but they also have an embedded media week at the end. And so they will learn about graphics design, how to edit a video and make a little media project and get a stipend as a reward at the end of that programming. So I do realize that they did not put their contact info on the slide, but if anyone is interested, I'll be putting Jennifer's contact info in the chat moving on later. But let's get real.
All right, and next up we have Grace introducing the Children's Mental Health Program. Grace, are you there? Folks seeing Grace? I think she might be losing connection.
Is it working? Can you all
Okay,
see me?
you're there.
Okay. I was like, no, Zoom, don't quit on me just now. But okay, so let's talk about the Children's Mental Health Program. Definitely open to taking more questions at the end. But if you go to the next slide, you'll see that we primarily serve children and youth, and including transitional age youth as well. So ages 6 to 24. Are you able to go to the next slide? We primarily serve individuals in King County, and our primary sources of referral come from schools and our community partners. And so we have presence in multiple school districts, including Seattle, Highline, Tukwila, Renton, Kent, Lake Washington, and Bellevue school districts. Some of the specific services that we provide in our children's mental health program include cultural and linguistic specific services, individual counseling, and for those who would like to explore psychiatric services, we also provide that. We also have some specialty in working with sexual assault victims as well as QT BIPOC youth. And when we might find that we aren't the best fit or they're looking for something else, we also provide those referrals within ACRS as well as to other service providers. And another slide at the end, you'll see a list of the different languages that our clinicians speak. I don't know, are people seeing the other slides? I just see the children's mental health opening page. Okay, as long as you can see it. When a family or a youth gets referred to us, sometimes maybe their specific identity or cultural background in a counselor is not available, but our team works heavily in supporting each other and consulting with each other so that we may be able to share our knowledge in our specific communities to our providers and therefore help those youth and children who come to seek mental health services with us. And so, yeah.
Thank you, Grace. I hope your Zoom is okay. We'll be moving on to the panel portion where hopefully we'll get to take a break from the slides and be able to see each other. And Mark will ask us some questions.
Yeah, thank you all for going over all the amazing programs for ACRS. I'm excited to ask you some questions. So first off, what are some of the barriers that AAPI folks face when seeking mental health care?
I'll be taking on this question, and of course, to provide a comprehensive list of all the barriers would be very difficult, knowing that, there could be so many. I think one that I think is really interesting is, first of all, not having the language to describe kind of what you're feeling. We talked about some of the myths and facts, and I don't know if this is a really well-informed group, but y'all did great. And I think even if some people might be able to identify the myths and facts, I think maybe some of the language that we use, like especially with, children, that it's a phase, or, they can like brush it off, or, that it's not as, important. And I know that, people are busy, life is happening, but, it is really helpful to kind of, educate ourselves and acknowledge, what are some of the symptoms that come up, and the symptoms for children and adults could be very different. Another one is stigma or misconceptions about mental health, whether it's being seen as a sign of weakness or different beliefs that different cultures hold around mental health, challenges could be, quite different, and maybe going to like a more typical like Western medical or mental health provider, could be really challenging to explain some of those beliefs that your family holds, and having those concerns be legitimized. And so that relates to, not knowing, where can I go to see people who look like me or speak a certain language, and that they can receive mental health counseling from. And another one is, cost. I kind of put in the chat that all of our, counseling services and, programs are free. And, thinking about therapy and, whether you're using insurance or not, it can still be very cost prohibitive to people, and especially for youth. Especially because, once you're over the age of 13, the youth doesn't have to involve their families, but thinking about using insurance or coming up with the money on your own is obviously a huge challenge. And the last one I wanted to mention, we kind of talked about language, but I also want to acknowledge, like, maybe having had a bad experience in counseling before can be really deterring for someone to kind of open up. So I really do want to encourage you all, having this information to maybe influence the way, someone around you or a loved one might think about counseling. And it's always, really good to validate some of those experiences while also hoping that there is someone else who could be a better fit. Is there anything anyone on the team would like to add to that before we move on to the next question? Okay, no takers. So Mark, we'll move on to the next one.
Yeah, so we noticed that you have some volunteer opportunities at ACRS, and we at NAMI Eastside love volunteers. So how can people get involved? What are some of the most impactful ways folks can help support your work?
Right. Thank you, Mark. So I can kick off with this one. So we have a lot of volunteer opportunities, like you can volunteer at the farm, you can volunteer at the food bank, or you can join the phone banking when it's the election season. I think besides these more like physical, concrete actions, is more about like standing with the community and be there. I think there are a lot of the barriers are maybe about isolation and not being able to have a bridge. So I think just simply standing with the community and be able to understand where they're coming from. And also to eliminate these barriers, it's going to be quite a process, but I think being able to support the community members to voice up, and maybe just simply showing up to support and being able to kind of educate the people around you about, oh, these are not true, or like, oh, you shouldn't think about this way. So all of these can be really, really impactful. And again, like it's not one night job or one person's job, is more like a collective efforts. And I would say, like, if you have time, feel free just to stop by the ACRS building and check the food bank, check the farm, and talk with the community members. And this is not only about ACRS one organization, it's about how to support the whole community. And again, like, stay informed and being able to connect with different community organizations like CBOs, partners, and learn about what they do. And if you can find a part you can be involved, I think that's the most impactful way to support the community. My teammates, if you want to jump in. Yeah. Thank you. Okay.
All right. Well, on that note, what can organizations like NAMI Eastside do to better serve AAPI communities?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked, Mark. I think opportunities like today have been a great platform for us to just talk and share about our existing resources for this community. Continuing to give opportunities and platforms for the adults and youth in this community to speak on their experiences. I know it could be really empowering. I think constantly being able to just do our own self-work and educating ourselves is an individual act that we can each take. I'd also like to just see, in general, more push for research on our community and being able to be supportive of other communities' researches as well, but not just be lumped all in together. I think it's great when we talk about BIPOC communities that there's like specific things we can talk about for the Black and African American communities or the Latina community. But wanting to have some space and more research to talk about API community, I think could be really helpful in being able to find what are the gaps in services that we have for this population. Because like we talked about earlier, it's over 2 million people that we're talking about here in the US. So I appreciate you all just even being here and having this platform for us to just discuss. Anyone else want to add things, or we can go on to our next question and make sure we get some time at the end for audience questions too.
All right. Thanks, Grace. So piggybacking off that question, what are some issues that you would like more community members to be aware of when it comes to these topics?
Yeah, I think especially for us as the CYF department, some of the issues that we have been seeing, especially with our youth in this current day and age, is that a lot of them are suffering from the pandemic. There are a lot of kids, or there are a lot of youth that are facing a lot of mental health challenges due to what the past 3 years has had on their own developmental stages. Through, we see a lot of kids struggle how to communicate certain things. We see a lot of kids that struggle how to set certain boundaries. And one of the biggest things, and this kind of touches on what we were talking about earlier in terms of myth and facts, a lot of parents may seem to see a disconnect in, or just have a lot of struggle in helping how to like best find how to best support their youth. And just knowing that it is not necessarily a parent's fault for these challenges that are appearing, because there's just definitely a larger or wider kind of generational impact that the current youth have in terms of the mental challenges that they face and just things that we are seeing. And another thing I would also like to touch on is that I know that there is often a cultural stigma when it comes to seeing a mental health therapist or seeing any sort of mental health service and within the AAPI community, and we just wanted to assert that that is definitely not the case, and that it is completely normal, completely healthy to seek out help when you need it, and it is oftentimes one of the biggest ways, or one of the biggest things that we could do for ourselves and for our own youth. It is a very big, courageous step, and it's not a sign of weakness, which is it is often labeled as such. So those are some of the things that I would say. I wanted to kind of pass it on to any of our team members who had anything else that they wanted to respond or say to this question. We good?
Well, I just had one thought, you know, Grace, and before mentioned too that it's like 2 point, or one of the slides is like 2.9 to like, like round up, and that's like 3 million people. And if one person just has, let's say, like one loved one who cares about them, you know, that number doubles of people who are impacted by, you know, mental health challenges. Even, you know, as a caregiver, you know, what to do, I think requires a significant amount of, you know, learning, compassion, and patience. So kind of just reflecting on all these questions, and really grateful that you all are here, you know, to learn. Yeah, anyone else like to add? Otherwise, might be time to put our, you know, last slide up. We also, you know, didn't want you to leave quote unquote empty-handed. We wanted to provide some information for, you know, resources, how you can reach out, if you're in need, or if you know someone else, you know, a loved one, or, you know, a young person in your life who might benefit from these resources. We'll have them up in a second. And already, you know, you being here and being aware of NAMI Eastside Services is a huge, huge resource too. I know they have a great website, a lot of, you know, groups that you can attend, and, you know, even to learn more about us, you know, if you don't happen to have, you know, our contact information, you know, going through NAMI and, you know, being connected to resources that way is definitely, you know, a great opportunity. Mark, any chance we can get this slide up?
Yeah, I think I have it up. Maybe I'm sharing something.
Oh, okay. Let me try to see if that's something on my end. Are other folks seeing the slide? Okay, now we see it. So it'll just be the slide for that. Okay, great. Here are some, you know, resources. You know, some of you might have heard, you know, 988, you know, relatively recently launched as a national, I think it's in Canada too, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but 988 is a great resource that, you know, you can call or text, and a lot of our young people do prefer to text. You know, sometimes it is hard to, you know, talk to a stranger maybe on the phone, but texting can be quite accessible. There's the NAMI helpline, you know, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. That's Monday through Friday, which is, you know, a pretty wide window to have, you know, someone to reach out to. And they also have a text line as well. So, you know, to kind of, okay, 988 is available in Canada, you know, that's great. You don't have to worry if you're across the border. You know, just remember 988 and you're good to go. So you can also connect with us at the main office. The phone number is there, you know, they're definitely pros at, you know, guiding you to, you know, where you need to go. And for our referrals, it's cyfintake@acrs.org, to send in, you know, information about, you know, who would like to receive services. Does the team have any other, and I know Brian put in the chat also Jackie's email too, to kind of get connected to Get Real. Yeah, anyone else has to add about resources to take away before we go into questions? I'm gonna take that as a no. Mark, sorry to ask you, no slide anymore. You know, hopefully we can go back to, you know, seeing each other. What questions do you have? Ooh, Sue asked a question. How about kids in Snohomish County? Grace, you know, take that question.
There are some occasions where we might be able to support youth and families outside of King County. We'll just have to kind of go through our screening process to see what they might be eligible for, but we really do our best to scour what funding sources we have to be able to support as many families out there as we can.
A lot of services are focused in King County, so that's a really great question. And we also work with Pierce County too, and have several go-tos for referrals for youth who are in that area. It's very much they could be going to school in King County, who knows, or have a parent or caregiver who works in King County, and it doesn't really matter for them what county they're in, but it comes like a logistical kind of challenge for us to overcome in terms of funding. What other questions do y'all have? Questions or comments? Definitely all welcome.
I don't think I have a note to that, and that is regarding resources. I personally feel that a lot of people often overlook how many resources a school, especially a school in King County, might have. And I want to say that because from my personal experience, I families don't realize that schools sometimes have, or a lot of times, have counselors for the children. They might also share a lot of outside organizations like us at ACRS inside the schools. And I just want to make sure that we are all aware that if you have, especially, children or even adults who are in universities and community colleges, schools or institutions with a lot of resources and a lot of people as well. So if you have access to these places, make sure that you also seek them out for any resources or connections to resources.
Okay, we have a question from Lois. I have Korean family members, and sometimes I don't understand what they're doing or why they're doing it, and they don't always explain to me. Are there any resources for me to find out more ways to understand them? That's a really great question. I think some of the one note that I maybe forgot to mention about the language, Grace mentioned the different languages, or there was a slide that listed them. I think maybe there are several scenarios when the youth that we work with is fluent in English, but there's a caregiver who has a specific language need, and we consider that as a very important factor as well, because a lot of times with youth we are working with the whole family. So, depending on whether we're definitely more mental health focused, and maybe this is something that impacts your mental health, and that could be something that you seek counseling for, or one could seek counseling for. There are also other resources like Korean Community Service Center that, might be more open to kind of a broader consultation to better understand, or different Korean American communities. But definitely a lot of not understanding, why family members do certain things is something that comes up quite a lot as we work with second or third gen youth.
Sorry, I just want to quickly add on that, because our program do serve a lot of we call it biracial, bicultural, multiracial, multicultural families and kids. So they definitely experience a lot of that kind of a communication challenges or cultural challenge or misunderstandings. So again, how I shared about how to kind of being involved in their life is a very important part. So if you have any opportunities, you can kind of join what they usually would like to do, like kind of a community event, like a walk or something, be able to kind of understand where they're coming from. That's what we always call meet where they're at. So that will be how I think that it's more helpful than just translating everything in languages. It's just be able to feel how they do things and why they do things this way. So kind of finding a place that you can be part of their life and experience together with them. I think that that'll definitely be a really helpful way to understand like these like confusions and then be able to build that kind of connection. And in terms of like they don't always share or explain, I think that's also about trust building. So if we show like we're willing to learn about their life throughout real actions, I think that kind of open up a tunnel of like they're kind of understanding that, oh, you want to learn about their life, then maybe that will encourage them to start explaining and sharing like why they're doing things like this way with you. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I had some comments on this. I really love this question because I see the work that you're wanting to do yourself to be able to better support your family members. And one tip I can maybe offer that might be a little bit more fun and of your interest too is being able to find any like Korean authors or Korean drama, something that you find interest in, like reading or watching yourself to just get some more exposure to the culture and different ways people might do things. And I love the question that you're asking. So keep asking questions, I would say too. And hopefully there's something out there of interest that could be helpful for you. But some of the things just off the top of my head for Korean media could be like Crying in H Mart. I haven't read it personally, but I know and I probably should read it. There's K-dramas too, like Crash Landing on You, that talks a bit more about like North and South Korea, right? And maybe you've already explored all these. Pachinko, I think, is another good book, and the author has, I think, a few other books as well to explore. But thank you for this question. I really love it.
I know we're coming up on 8. Maybe one final question, maybe while you're thinking, I did want to add in the chat the link to an event that we have coming up. I think attending cultural events, maybe with your loved ones, can also be a great opportunity to connect. And yes, Crash Landing on You was one of my favorites. Really great recommendation, Grace. Yeah, so I know Nami is also having a walk. I think, we're trying to do everything we can outside during the months that we can over here in Seattle. So there are also some cultural performances in the beginning. I've gone for the past couple of years. It's very, it's really fun, good vibes. So if you are able to attend, I believe it's next month and it's at Seward Park on a Saturday. So last call for any questions. Angela has a great question. If you can give one piece of advice for AANHPI and Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander members who are struggling with their mental health, what would it be?
A quick and maybe a little cliche one is that help is always available. So people who are eager to help you, there is absolutely nothing wrong with seeking help. I think something that I personally also had to overcome is that there's a stigma around seeking support, which my fellow teammates have already discussed. Please use the resources that are in the world, in King County and beyond, and seek any support that you might need. I promise you, there are people who are out there who care about you and want you to succeed and feel well and be well. So, yes, that would be what I would say.
One thing I would also say is to not feel discouraged. Mental health resources can definitely be something that can be inaccessible in terms of financially, but there are resources and people available that are willing to help you find the right things for you. And I think that's something that definitely is really important to keep in mind. And as I know it can be super discouraging, but it's something that's very important to also remember.
Thank you so much for the question, Angela. And I like what Grace added in the chat that you're allowed to take up space. And like, yes, Eric can relate to that so much. Like you have all the permission to seek what you need. Yeah, so this might be a good time to wrap up our conversation today. And along with, the announcement, the resources, I think Mark would be a great person to kind of reach out to if you missed something in the slides that you did want access to. But Mark, anything else? Oh, and then the survey Mark put in the chat. Mark, is there anything else before we wrap up for tonight?
No, I just want to say thank you so much to all of you, Lydia, Grace, Storm, Dee, and Brian, for this really enlightening conversation. Amazing work that you all do. I'm really excited to send folks your way who need help. So I'm so glad that you're in the community and really appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you so much, everyone, for attending and sharing an hour of your evening with us. Thank you. And thank you for your time. And I hope you take something with you that you found helpful.